Brighter Shores Central, back from my break. Yes, I still play Brighter Shores. I am currently trying to max all 500 in Hopeport, and it's going very well at the moment. And I'm going to be talking about here the combat rework that's happening with some screenshots that show some information that's been going on in the background on the combat beta for the rework. Let's go right into the information. So, as we know, they are planning to merge the combats. The reason they're doing this is due to player feedback. There has been some player feedback that it feels that the combat is sort of segmented. You level up in Hopeport, you then get to Hope Forest, and then you level 1 again in the combat. And that was one of the sticking points for a lot of people. It's what made quite a few people quit. The idea that you move from one episode to the next and your combat is essentially reset to an extent. Now, the professions are not reset because actually, if you think of it, certain professions linked to certain episodes. So, for example, carpentry, episode 2, helps the crafting skills in episode 3. So there is some interlinks between the episodes, but certainly combat was a sticking point. They're completely changing this. They've listened to the fans and listened to the feedback, and now they're having an overall combat. Now, what you can see on screen now, as I've shown, is a total overall global combat level, as opposed to an episode combat level. So your combat will span across all episodes. So you will feel strong across all of the global map, essentially, as you level up your combat, rather than in one section feeling really weak, and then in another episode feeling really strong. You will see your strength actually increase as you level up your combat. In addition to this, what's important is that there is different variations of mobs. From each level you unlock more mobs, and before you would have to camp a particular mob for quite some time. Now it seems that for, say, like every 3 to 7 levels or so, you will receive a new mob to go and kill, and it could be in any episode. So it could be episode 1, 2, 3 or 4. So what you'll find yourself doing is jumping around the episodes and the map a lot more to different combat areas, so it adds that variety to combat rather than being segmented into just each episode. It's now a global combat system, and you'll be fighting all the mobs from all the different areas. In addition to that, one of the issues was that it felt like that the mobs were just reskinned. Okay, you would move to one area, it'd reskin, another area, it'd reskin. They are keeping an element of that, but what they have also done is added more mobs. So they're continuously adding more variety of mobs, so it feels that you've got a lot more choice in terms of where you're going. You know, it keeps it fresh. You're able to fight different types of mobs rather than just a reskin of the mob. There is an element of that still, but I think that's good that there's going to be more variety of mobs and monsters added into the game. Another point is the combat capes as well. So as you get your overall combat level, you will also be able to get a specific combat cape. And this cape seems to go from, for example, bronze to platinum and so on and so forth. So the cape changes color the higher level you get your combat cape. And the sword design also gets longer. So you start off with a level 50 cape that's a smaller kind of sword design, and as you level up your combat cape, it turns into a massive sword. So you'll be able to progress like your combat capes as well. The quartermaster has also changed, so you no longer have armor for each episode, and any armor piece can now be used for any episode essentially. And you can see on screen how they have actually designed this now. You are, instead of segmented by episode, you are segmented by type of armor. So, for example, you have leg armor, foot armor, shields. All of these are easily displayed in a toggleable search function so that you can then see what shields you've got very easily, what pieces of leg armor you've got easily, and then you can switch and choose between as you wish. It's a much more fluid system that way. There is also another feature for this where you have the different weaknesses for the mobs. So some mobs, for example, might have a inferno damage that they do, or they have a arbor damage that they do. There is also this auto equip feature where basically it will put on your best armor that is resistant to a particular type. Okay, so if you needed to be resistant to arboret damage because you are about to go and fight an arboret mob, which is going to be more beneficial to you to put on the armor and the equipment that is best to fight against that. So there is going to be a toggleable feature where you can put on the damage resistant equipment very easily rather than being confused. Okay, do I put this on? Do I put that on? And so that makes it more streamlined, on top of the fact that you are able to see all your shields or all your armor all in one section, segmented on each, and be able to pick and choose which one you want for the next mob that you're fighting. The reason for this is because, like I said, every 3 to 7 levels or so, you're going to be fighting a new mob. Therefore, you're probably going to be switching out your combat equipment and goods essentially on a regular basis. When can you play this? When is this coming? When is it coming out? So the combat beta is launching in the middle of this week, so you can test this system out, and they will be responding and updating it based on feedback. And also, this is pretty much quite polished. There is some issues, and of course there is going to be some feedback and changes, but I would suspect imminently after that we are going to see this go into the live game. So this is basically very, very soon this will be going into the live game. They just want to get a bit of feedback before implementing it into the live game, so you can get access to it this week. The best way to actually keep your ears to the ground on this is to check out the Twitch category on Brighter Shores, talk to the streamers about it and say, you know, what's going on with this beta. And also, the other thing is to follow Fen Samuel on Twitter, who keeps posting leaks on there. Now, what's coming to the future? Then after they've added this combat rework, phase 2, which will take a little bit longer, they're going to add a talent tree whereby you can have movement speed, more tank ability, or more DPS, or more ammo for your ranged weapons. These sorts of abilities where you're going to be able to choose a talent tree and basically craft your character how you want it to be. You're also going to be able to reset the talent tree if you want to, so that you can play around with different types of builds and customizations. Also, they're going to be adding special attacks, so you'll be able to use a special attack every so often in a fight with a mob. So that will be coming in phase 2 after phase 1 is implemented imminently this week and next week. However, after this combat rework happens where we all get a global combat level, I think after that it's going to make it a lot better and a lot easier to implement bosses, because you could just implement a boss at a specific combat global level. Say like level 200, there is your first like mid-game boss, or level 500 is your first mid-game boss or whatever. And they can add bosses at specific levels, and also they should add more rare itemization at specific levels that go ahead with this combat. People want to chase a rare, like a 1 in 1000 RNG drop rate from a particular mob. There needs to be more stuff like this in the game, I think, whereby people can chase items and feel a bit of excitement every time they kill a mob. They're also expanding their team. They're planning on expanding the team. They're going into a new office. So people have been saying Brighter Shores is dying. It's not really, because they're expanding into a new office, which means they've got more office space. They're planning on expanding the team to get into more developers. I don't know who they're going to hire exactly, but probably more developers, a marketer maybe. I've heard rumblings and rumours about ModMapK being in contact with Fen Research as well. So that could be interesting. And we'll see what happens in the future. But it looks like this expanding the team, that dealing with some of the issues that players had by this combat rework and merging the combat. And I think there's great things to come in the future. Let's see what happens. Smash the like button, subscribe to the channel, and I'll speak to everyone later.